a high-level view of the coronavirus infection. You may have seen it in the news recently. People who got the coronavirus survived and now are getting it again. There's a lot of discussion over what this means. Some claim it's the end of the world because there can be no immunity. Some say it doesn't mean much because there are so few cases. But as the headline here notes, it's complicated. So let's first go over a simple explanation of immunity, and then later, building on that basis, we'll talk about reactivation versus reinfection, and finally some specifics of the reinfection cases, what this could mean and what it does not mean. So here is Professor Iwasaki, who commented on a study last month when somebody got reinfected, saying there is no cause for alarm. This is how immunity works. This is how it should work. The second infection was asymptomatic. Well, I think it's a little bit complicated. I'm not sure she's completely right. So first, let's delve into the idea of immunity. The immune system is classified into innate and adaptive. For a more general view, let's just talk about specific and non-specific. So some things like this can prevent everything from coming in. Well, it tries to. It actually does a very good job. Burn victims are a classic example of how important your skin is because they usually die if most of their skin is burned off. Nowadays we have a better survival rate, but it's still not so great. The skin doesn't care whether you're a new bacteria it's never met or one it's met a million times. It treats you all the same. Keep out. But there's something called specific immunity, one that targets certain things. This could target certain bacteria because they're bacteria. There are things that make a bacteria different from a virus. And there's also this other classification that has a similar idea called innate and adaptive here. The idea is that innate, it just exists. It's born this way in you. It doesn't change. Adaptive is specific. It changes, it adapts. If it's seen the bacteria before, it should be better the second time around. Now with this understanding, let's go back and look at what Professor Iwasaki said. She said the second infection was asymptomatic. The immune system had learned from the first time, but it wasn't enough to block another infection, but did protect a person from disease. What does she mean by that? Well, the person was asymptomatic, so that means the immune system did do more than the first time around. So yes, it learned a little bit. It prevented symptoms, and so she says that's wonderful. But I'm not really sure this is correct. Many people are asymptomatic anyways. Is their immune system stronger than this other person's who got it and now has a response? I would say so. More importantly, what is a strong immune system? Google obviously will give you a list of websites that advertise how to boost your immune system, but I can tell you there is no medical consensus what a strong immune system means. In fact, the immune system is often the one that makes us very ill. All of us who went to medical school know that patients with HIV should not just automatically get treatment when you see them. You have to treat their other diseases. When they get AIDS, their immune system basically shuts down. They get all sorts of infections that we call sort of latent or they're long-standing. They've been there a long time. They're not going to kill them anytime soon. However, if you give them treatment for HIV, their immune system will kick back in. Their new, strong immune system, which some people would think it's a good thing, but we all know now it's a bad thing. They'll start attacking these bacteria, mycoplasma, and it might potentially kill the patient. The immune system is the one killing the patient. It's collateral damage, sure, but hey, the patient is dying. You don't want to ever have a patient who goes through iris here. And for those of you who aren't doctors, you may have heard the term sepsis. I think the whole campaign thing is sort of overdone, saying how people die of sepsis, blah, blah, blah. Most doctors don't even really understand what sepsis is, but the principle is very interesting, and I'll explain to you at a very high level. Sepsis is the body's immune system kicking in response to an infection, bacteria, virus, whatever. If you have no immune system, or it didn't kick in, you don't have sepsis. Most people get hurt, they die because of the immune system kicking in, not because of bacteria. That's why steroids are so often proposed, and they're so proposed now for the coronavirus. We don't want the body to be fighting this infection so hard. Why? Well, think of a humongous army like those of Lord of the Rings. They could do an awful lot of damage. More damage potentially than an enemy. Say you have a tiny enemy, just a few soldiers, they invaded a city. They're hard to find because there's not many of them. Yeah, they could do some damage, not a lot. But if this huge army comes through and starts trying to find them, tries trying to capture them, starts trying to attack them, There's going to be a lot of collateral damage. They might miss the enemy. You try to hit the enemy, he escapes, you end up hitting a civilian instead, or a building, or you throw in a grenade. Yeah, miss the enemy, blow up a building. They could end up causing more damage to the enemy itself. And the dental world discovered this recently. The medical world had known about it for years, saying that, actually, the body's immune system neutrophils are actually damaging and causing your cavities, not just the bacteria. I've seen it myself. I had a 20-year-old patient who was very sick from a fungus. It just causes most people to have a dry cough. But he was so sick, his heart rate's in the 140s, 160s at time. He's having fevers all day long. He's already been hospitalized for weeks on the best anti-fungus therapy we have, and I don't know if he's really better. The issue? His immune system. If only we could turn it off. And we have a term for when the immune system goes haywire and attacks itself, attacks the body. It's called autoimmune disease. You may have heard of some of these terms like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis. These are when we don't find a causative agent like bacteria or virus. However, the principle still stands. The immune system can be overeager. It does too much attacking and actually hurts the body more than the virus were left alone. So now that we understand a little bit more about the immune system, let's go back and look at what Professor Iwasaki said.